Hello and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program. I'm Cat Trans Gamer, and I'm doing a special request today of building a base and landing it on Mun. So let's go ahead and get this vehicle built. So let's see here. Key thing about building bases is your design. You want to build this thing in such a way that you can assemble it in space over Kerbin in orbit, because that's where you're basically going to be. You're going to launch multiple pieces up, assemble them in orbit, and then fly the craft over to Mun and land it, or Minmus, or any other probe out there, or moon type body. You could even build a base and land it on Duna if you're doing it right. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and jump through this, and I will show you the final build once I get there of what I've got in this craft. So let me go ahead and build the center section, and I'll be right back with you. Okay, so this is what I've got so far. I've got a cupola module with a science bay, mobile processing lab, with a 2.5 meter service bay, and I've gone ahead and loaded up my Rover in there, and I've also added in four 400 charge batteries in this. And then underneath, we've got, under structural, we've got the Rockomax brand adapter 2, and then I attached 4 radial attachment points to it, and then applied the Spark liquid fuel engine, because we're only going to need a little bit of thrust to land this thing. But I'm going to be applying 4 of these little rocket motors on each module, and I'm going to have a total of 5 modules. So we've got the main module that's going to have basically the control section, and it's going to have 4 separate modules on the outside. That's all going to be attached as one piece. But one thing I wanted to show you is here we've got, for the stanchion, I put a modular girder adapter right in here, actually attached to the center point, upside down. And then I applied the long girder, segment XL, 4 of them across. And then I grabbed just the regular girder segment, and then a modular girder adapter with a regular size clampetron on it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to then come in here, and we are going to rotate this piece up by 90 degrees. There we go. And then we just offset it. And if you notice, offset's a little off right here. So the easiest way to do this is you just come up here and grab your whole craft right now and just rotate it 45 degrees. By rotating it 45 degrees, it will then take the offset tool and apply it so the arrows are nice and straight with 90-degree sharp turns. So it makes it easier to do that. So what I'll do is I'll bring these down. I'm going to bring them in about like that, so they look a little more sturdy there. And there we go. And then we just come back up here and rotate whatever we turned back to 45 degrees. So everything lines back up. If you notice, I did not move the actual cupola module. I used the modular science bay processing lab. That way I can line the ladders right back up and I know it's all straight. And the reason I've got these out as 45s is because I wanted the engines to be a full 90-degree left, right, up and down kind of thing, because it's easier to straighten them out that way. And you also want your motors to have a nice clean path to the ground, because if they were burning straight onto these girders, you wouldn't gain any thrust from using them, because the girders would technically be blocking them. So, alright, I will see you after I add on the rest of the modules. See you in a few. Okay, so here's what we got for our moon base. I'm going to take this thing to Mun, and I'll also take one to Minmus to show you the difference in landing on both. One with higher gravity than the other. But this is what we've got. We've got basically our structure here. And I've got a lot of fuel on here, but that's because I've decided to make this also a refueling outpost. So I'll be able to mine up ore and refuel these fuel tanks, and then this right here, which I've still got a little bit of designing to do on this. I'll show you that later on before I launch it, the differences I do in this. But this is mainly just for testing it. This is basically our refueling rover. It can plug into this fuel tank, and I aligned the what I did is I took the let me flip this back over. I took the craft and set it so it was just on the ground. There we go. And then I placed the docking port up here high and then built this off of it. And then once I had it all built with the big wheels and everything, I decided to use these since we haven't used them yet in this game. I then used the offset tool with snap mode off, and I grabbed that one docking port right here that's connecting to the fuel tank, and I offset it down until the wheels were just touching the ground. So that way they're at the same level as all these girders down here that are going to be on the ground. And then what I've got up here, and as you can see, I put on top of all the 4 outsides, I put a full-size battery. Let's see here. Oh yeah, the Rover, just so you know, the Rover has a small docking port that's offset down here, and then I've got a larger docking port there. That way I can, if I can get other craft to land, maybe I can put a docking port lower on them, or I'll have to do the docking port higher. And then I've got this large docking port because what I plan on doing is putting a space station above the planet that will have this large docking port, so I can transfer fuel to the larger space station and build a docking port up in space, orbiting the surface, for refueling craft as they fly by and whatnot, for going on to further objectives. But this is what I've got. Each 4 of these modules on the outside are designed to line up and dock with this main girder structure, which is attached to the center section. And then I've got my little hopper right here. Let me zoom in here. I've got a little hopper right here that's got a little bit of fuel, some monopropellant for docking, a docking port at the bottom, landing gear, and then a materials bay, and then your basic science equipment. I've got a thermometer and atmospheric pressure, some basic science equipment on this thing. This is a little hopper that I can take from biome to biome a little bit easier. And actually, I don't think those little motors, they don't produce, they don't produce energy, so that is going to be one problem I will have to remedy real quick. And to remedy that, I'm going to use the little radioisotope thermal generator. And I'll just place one right on the top, just like that. And for the winter nights, we'll go ahead and place one come on. So when the planet's not, or whatever surface we are doing this on, is not in range of the sun, we'll have those four right there producing power. Because they don't produce that much power. I mean, 45 a minute. But when you start looking at stuff like the drills, they use 15 a second. This drill uses, or the convertitron, depending on what you do, it could be, let's see, oxidizer 30 a second, 30, 30, 30. So yeah, they all take 30 electric charge a second to process that. But what's really interesting is the required cooling. 200 kilowatts, right? And then our drills, max cooling 100 kilowatts. Well, what I decided to do was, just to make it easy for me, I threw on the large radiator system. And then I put solar panels all over the place on here. I've got 4 of these large solar panel arrays on the fuel tanks each, so a total of 8 of those. And then if this is docked, this also has 5 sets of these little solar panels, which are these ones right here, the photovoltaic panels. And then I've got 2 of the XL solar panels sticking out at either side. So when that's docked, it will add more power to the station. And then I also added lights just so you guys can kind of see what it looks, you know, all lit up for when landing and stuff like that. And I've put 2 drills on here to kind of help speed up the drilling process, and a large ore storage container. And then I put the small fuel tank over here because the idea is, you know, this stack here is identical to this stack, but because this stack here is different, I tried to balance them out a little bit. So if you look, let's see here, bring up my parts, look at the mass. If I pick up this right here, I'm at 120.6 tons. I pick it up, I'm now at 106.9 tons. So we lost about 14 tons right there, right? Oh, whoops. Okay. Let me turn off symmetry. There we go, that's better. So we lost almost 14 tons there. But if we come over here and I click on this, I'm at 106.1 tons. So I lose just over 14 tons. I lose 14.5 tons. Where here I'm losing 13.7 tons, or 13.7 tons. So I've got the weight almost identical between the two. And that's what you want. You want to have a balanced base for when you're landing this on a planet. And that's the real trick, is to keep it all balanced. And since all this is set up so that fuel will be able to bypass, I should be able to use all these motors at the same time without having to put fuel hoses and everything all over the place. So let's go ahead and see if we've got some of this stuff lined up and test this stuff out. Let's go ahead and launch. Okay, before you launch, you want to make sure you have enough pilots to do what you need to do. So let's go to crew, and I need that small MK1 command pod, because I need to put a pilot over in there. So there we go. So now we got a pilot in the main cupola module right here, and now I've got a pilot in this right here, because I'm also going to test this little craft out. And I'll also be able to test out the rover, because the rover is being operated by a remote guidance unit. Oh, you know what? I did forget to put one final part in here. Hold on. Build. I forgot to put a center reaction wheel in this thing. Because when I go to land this, I'm going to have to turn the reaction wheel off in this module or the MK1, because you want only the one reaction wheel operating. Okay, is that connecting? Yes, it is. Okay, there we go. Picking it back up out of the ground. There we are. And let's make sure I've still got my crew where I want them. Yes. Okay. So now let's go ahead and launch this, and I'll show you what it's like. We'll test this out. The first thing I want to test out is I want to go and custom actions. Now 10 I have applied to all the solar panels and the radiator. So if I hit this, all the solar panels and all the radiators should extend. So there's the radiator extending, and the radiator is rotating. Why is the radiator rotating? It's going to clip through those solar panels. I don't like that. So I'm going to have to move the radiator over a little bit. But you see all the solar panels are rotating, trying to get to that sunlight. What little bit of sunlight's getting through to them. But yeah, you see the radiator and the solar panels are clipping right now. It's perfectly fine. Now let's go ahead and disconnect this node right here. Decouple node. And you'll be able to see how close I've got the alignment on these. Yeah, see, it's a little too high there. So if I switch over, come on. I need to switch over to that Rover. Switch to. Because I gotta test the wheels to see if they're pointing the right way. And nope, I got them going the wrong way. Okay, tap the brakes. Nope, this way. I want to see if it will connect even though it's offset a little bit. No, see, I gotta bring it up just a little bit there. It's trying to connect. You see it keep pulling it back. But because it's off, it won't line up. So I'll have to adjust that so I can get those lined up in the right order. I need to move the radiator panel over a little bit. But let's go ahead and take the Rover out real quick. I've built a really wide base. I might build this thing longer just for the fact of trying to build a bigger wheelbase. I might add another fuel tank on there. And then it's just a matter of building the motors that are going to take it up and down out of space and bring it back down and everything. So that's good. Nope. One more test. I gotta switch back over to the moon base. Come on. No, not moon base probe. I need the moon base itself. Okay. We're back to launch. Go ahead and extend the gear. See if the gear clears that. I forgot to check. Nope, the gear does clip in a little bit, which not good. But okay. I want to control from here. And then separate this. Decouple. And then nope, come on, switch over. This is the joys of testing things out. Sometimes it can be a pain in the butt. And why don't I have the other probe here? Looks like somebody fell off. Okay, I'll have to test that separate. I'm going to have to actually put that in a separate load. And I'm going to have to test that thing. To see if it flies and lands pretty easily. See if it's easy to control. But yeah, there you go. That's what I do for testing these things, is to make sure they're sturdy. And then like lining these things up, you test it by just putting it on the runway and decoupling it. You know, and then you also test all your solar arrays out to make sure they're at the right length and they don't clip through each other and stuff like that. So, and I always use this space plane hanger for testing, because that way I've got a nice large flat surface when I launch it to test it on. If you've ever tried testing something like this, a rover or anything, on the launch pad, it's very easy to get off the edge of the launch pad fairly quickly. So let's go ahead and move this over. Yeah, that should do. And then I'm going to go ahead and move switch it to radial. I'll go ahead and move those over right there. So that way I don't have to worry about the radiator hitting those. But I have moved the radiator over, so it shouldn't clip through now. And oh yeah, I forgot to put ladder. Utilities. I forgot to put one ladder in. So they can get into their habitation module where they can sleep. Alright, so there we go. Got that fixed. Oh yeah, this, I need to offset that just a little bit. So let's turn snap mode off, go to offset. And Yeah, we'll test that right there. See if that works. Oh yeah, one other thing I wanted to tell you guys about this rover. This little mini rover I built here. You want to make sure you come in here and that stack separator you put in here, you want to make sure you take the force all the way down to 0. Because you don't need it to push it away or anything like that. You just need it to let it go. And then let the shocks do the rest. So, we'll go ahead and I'll show you that this time. So one more test and we'll... Now this little hopper here that I built, I will be securing it to the top of this with struts until we get it to the surface. And then I'll be able to disconnect the struts by just decoupling it. But let's go ahead and go here and we will decouple you. And let's see what happens to the height. Yeah, see now I've got the height almost identical. It might be able to, yeah, it should be able to couple right up. Okay, let's test out the rover drop. Zoom in here so you guys can see it. So all I do is, because I've got the stack separator on its own staging now, I'll be able to just stage it and it will just drop. See, there you go. Now I switch over to the rover, push forward, and it's going to crash. Nope. It actually popped out of there. Look at that. On Kerbin's gravity. It actually did pretty good. There we go. Switch to that. What? It makes no sense. Okay, so this thing, now we've got control over this. Let's go ahead and pull it forward. Oh, no, this way. Nope. Brakes. Now what you do is you go control from here, and we set as target. So that way you can aim for it. And I hit it a little too hard, but look at that. We got connection. So now I know I've got that lined up. So I'll be able to use that on a on the other planets and everything as a connection point for this fuel tank. Now how's the clipping doing over here? Not bad. I might get a little bit of clipping from the solar panels when if they're rotated up or something like that, but that's what we've got. So there we go. We've got pretty much everything's tested out and looks good. So this thing's now ready to start launching into space and getting it built so I can get it over to the other planets, which I'll do in the next episode. For now, I'm Cat Trans Gamer, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!